Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. This is the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. Tonight, we've got a full house, and this is going to be a whole lot of fun. A few months ago, I did a show, brought in some bass players, and we talked about everybody's favorite bass players. And tonight, we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it with guitarists. And these are four of my favorites, and we'll get to know them in just a few minutes. But before we get into that, I want to tell you about the Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiasts. We have shows like Distillers Talk, Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. Alan and Christy will talk with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything distillation. Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. If you got a question about anything distillation, if you're a distiller, you don't know what to do, you're having run into a problem, email Alan. He'll post a video response for it. Alan also has a show, If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. In this show, he gets away from whiskey and talks about supernatural, paranormal, unusual, UFOs, Bigfoot, you name it, he covers it. My Whiskey Den, every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, with Pat, Mike, and Mitch. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. They have some wonderful guests, great tastings, and it's always fun to hang out with the folks in the chat. Whiskey in My Wedding Ring is a show from David Levine. David does a great job with his blog, where he'll post whiskey reviews, and on his podcast, he will interview distillers. And there's our show. If you're watching us right now on the YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We would love for you to be with us every single week. You can also listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, as long as it's Apple, Spotify, or Google. So, if you've followed this show, Bourbon Turntable, at all, you're going to be familiar with these guys because they're, like I said, these are some of my favorites. They've been all been guests before. I post about their shows, their new releases, photos, reels. So far they've not sued me for copyright infringement or anything like that. But these guys are some wonderful folks. So I'll start with Boone Froggett of the band Otis. Boone, welcome back.
Hey man, good to be back. I've enjoyed coming on the first time and enjoyed getting to hang with you in person a couple times this year.
Yeah, I think I saw you guys 3 times in about 6 weeks.
That was great, man. You was like a member of the family there for a little bit.
You can't get rid of me. I don't know. Penicillin might do it. I'm not sure, but Boone is an amazing guitarist, and he can make his slide guitar just absolutely sing. And he's got a bit of a Clark Kent Superman thing going on. He's very mild-mannered when you're just hanging out and talking to him. Then he gets on the stage, and the little Superman stuff comes out, and he's wailing out the lyrics to the songs, and he's talking to the crowd, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. So if you've not seen Otis live, be sure to check him out. And right over here, I don't know if you can see it or not, I've got their Eyes of the Sun album, which was out 4 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, one of the best albums of the decade. Just absolutely killer stuff. Now, Chris Tapp, he has been on our show a few times, and Chris and I actually met. I met Chris the same night that I met Blue Williams. They were playing a show together at Zanzibar, and sound guy was having a lot of trouble that night.
That's an understatement. Yeah.
But I got to meet both of those guys and learn their music, and they're just terrific. Chris is one of the most gifted and prolific songwriters and guitarists that I know of. He's got a very well-established and respected band called the Cold Stairs, and it's still on an upward trajectory after the release of their 7th album, The Southern. And Chris has a solo album coming out soon called Green. Tell us just real quick about Green and how that came about.
Man, I got lucky and was able to snag Peter Green's old National guitar when we were in tour overseas in London, and just got it back and got super inspired by it. And I didn't want to do a cover album of Fleetwood Mac stuff or Peter stuff because everybody's already done it and done it better than I can do it. So did an album of just acoustic songs with his National, and been inspired by that thing.
Yeah. Well, you got 3 singles off of that now, I think. Is that right?
Yep. Third one just came out.
Yep, and it's fantastic. I think it was Rock Song of the Week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to Classic Rock Track of the Week, which was
Yeah.
very, very sweet of them to throw that in there.
Yeah, our friend Jesse
So, yeah.
Red Wing out of Australia played some harmonica on it, so it's a great tune. Great tune.
He made it sound good.
Chris Blue Williams is the singer, songwriter, and guitarist for a trio called Sweet Lady. Probably seen Sweet Lady more times than any of the other bands that are represented here. If you're talking about not being able to get rid of somebody, Chris would know. But Chris is probably one of the most high energy guitarists that I've seen live. Definitely enthusiastic and gets into it and can work a guitar solo into any spot within a song. Whenever the singer takes a breath, he can work in a guitar solo, and he's a singer, so he can do that whenever he wants. And always has a wonderful get up. So this is one of my favorites. Actually, this was at a show that you guys, Sweet Lady, was doing with MojoThunder, and I just thought that was fantastic. So, Chris, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again, Kevin. And some of the clubs we do play, we are glad to see you come in.
Oh, and okay, so we don't have vinyl from Sweet Lady yet, but I do still have some of this left. Last year, you guys did a Tres Hombres tour, and I took it upon myself to do a blend of Texas whiskey and Kentucky bourbon as we honored ZZ Top and honored you guys and what you're doing. Tell everybody about that and what all went on with that tour.
Yeah, so the the Tres Hombres album turned 50, and could be a segue to one of my top 5, but we decided to kind of honor that and play it from front to back and kind of travel around and do it. Not thinking that it would be a thing, but a lot of people came out. A lot of people wanted to hear it, and it was fun to really play, Precious and Grace, and see people in the crowd just know every word and headbang to that one song that no one else knows. So it was real fun. Kind of travel around the 4-state area, regionally, and it was well received, and we very much appreciated that bourbon that you made us too. It was really nice.
I like I said, I got a little bit left. I took a swig of it before we started. It holds up.
I think I saved it till I think I still have some left, but I waited till our last show to take a couple swigs of it.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, and Bryson Willoughby is the lead guitarist and founder of the band called MojoThunder. They had an album come out a few years ago called Hymns from the Electric Church, which was an absolutely powerful rock, southern rock, blues rock album, whatever you want to call it, just and showcased a lot of Bryson's guitar skills. New album out is called The Infinite Hope, which is right here, if you can see it. Yeah, and went a very different direction with the sound for this album. You go from an album like Hymns from the Electric Church, and then you go into The Infinite Hope, and I think there's maybe 2.5 songs with guitar solos in it, and I'm like, wow, this is really wild. And then I see him live, and man, you get that guitar going in some very surprising places when you know the songs on that album. I saw you guys at Zanzibar on your album release show, and the guitar solo you did in Caroline off that album is probably one of my favorite guitar solos I've seen live all year. It was just killer.
Thank you.
And it says a lot that you were able to go into a different style and kind of take the guitar focus down a little bit for the benefit of the song. Talk a little bit, and we've talked about a little bit some before, but talk a little bit about the decision to go that direction, what that's meant to you guys.
As far as like the songwriting switch and all that, I think it was just, as we've talked about before, it was just kind of went from, putting boundaries on ourselves artistically to being like, there's no sense in doing any of this. If we write it, it sounds like us. So there really is no true genre switch.
Yeah.
And then as far as the lack of the guitar solos, I wrote a lot of the songs that were on that album. So I think I was thinking probably a little bit more as a writer than I was a guitar player.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to live, I was back to thinking as a guitar player.
Well, it all worked. Whatever you're doing, it worked. Just keep it up. It's a great album. Be sure to check it out, The Infinite Hope. All right, let's so what we're doing tonight is these guys, like I said, 4 of my favorites, and we're going to be talking with them about their favorite guitarists. So I've asked them to make a list 5 to 1, and we'll kind of go through that list. They may have some duplication. That's okay. I've got some other guitarists that I may throw out there just to get some thoughts on, and we'll learn a few other things along the way. But first thing we're going to do is grab something to drink, and we're going to have this Far North Spirits is out of Minnesota, and this is called their Roknar Rye. So it is a Minnesota rye whiskey finished in a cognac cask. So I went very different with my selections to send you guys tonight. So these will they'll be very different, I think, and a little bit unusual. So cheers.
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 So I'm starting with a Minnesota whiskey. So I want to talk to kind of get the juices flowing on this topic. I want to start with a Minnesota guitarist, singer, songwriter, do everything, Prince. So a lot of people don't necessarily think of Prince about Prince being a guitarist because he's such an incredible songwriter and performer. So what do you guys, where does Prince rank for you all? Chris Tapp, we'll start with you.
Man, as a songwriter, it's hard for me to look at anybody that's done that well as anything other than a songwriter. I mean, he's a fantastic guitar player, but as a songwriter and just a creative force in the studio, he's like, he's top 10. So yeah. I think I don't know. I think his guitar playing will always be overshadowed by those things, but obviously he could tear it up.
Yeah. Boone, what do you think?
Oh man, one of the greatest sets of ears in modern music. You can kind of follow the roots of like Sly Stone, Stevie Wonder, all those guys came it's a kind of continuation of that in Prince, and it just really insightful stuff, and that the 1980 Batman soundtrack is incredible, man. You can hear there's a lot of James Brown, JBs. You can hear Famous Flames, all that stuff in what Prince did. So very cool.
Yeah. Bryson, any thoughts on Prince?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love Prince. He's definitely top 10 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing to be said that hasn't already been said so far, but. Is it, that's a dude that could have stopped his career at 21 and had a bigger career than most people will in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Blue, any thoughts on Prince?
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen the "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" video, and
Yeah.
obviously, probably number one Super Bowl act of all time, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
how many chances do you get to play "Purple Rain" in the rain at with
Yeah.
millions of people watching? But I would have to agree with Tapp that the songwriting has taken front seat with him, and has wrote many songs and gave a lot of the songs away for
Yeah.
obviously a fee, but a lot of songs no one knows Prince wrote. Actually,
Yeah.
he wrote, and it's crazy to be able to do that for anybody and everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. They said after he passed and they went into his studio, there were just hundreds and hundreds of songs that were completed, and hundreds and hundreds more that were in some state of completion that nobody ever heard. Nobody ever, So hopefully, his estate will get it together, and they'll be able to release some of that down the road, because he's amazing. So a few questions for you guys as we're kind of rolling into this as well. Who took guitar lessons growing up? Bryson, Chris, a little bit.
Yeah, somewhat. I think I had somebody teach me a couple chords, and and then he taught me. I don't know what it was called. I always called it the do re mi scale. I think that's a major, maybe. Not sure. I'm trying to learn theory now by myself. Yeah, that was kind of it, and I just kind of plugged away and kept going.
Yeah. So Boone, self-taught.
Well, my father was a guitarist as well as my grandfather, so they might show me a chord on a commercial of Gunsmoke and tell me to go figure it out. That's about far as I got with a guitar lesson.
Chris, you're self-taught as well?
Man, I took piano lessons whenever I was really young, like 4, and played piano from 4 to about 10 or 11. And so I kind of had a good bearing underneath everything before I started guitar. But yeah, I never did do guitar lessons. I'm glad I didn't at this point. I mean, I enjoy playing so much now that I do, I look at YouTube lessons and stuff like that now, but
yeah,
I don't know if my ADD would have suffered it whenever I was a kid or not.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that will it kind of violates bro code is when I'm standing around with some other guys, and my wife is there, and somebody asks me, how many bottles of whiskey do I have? Okay, so because that's just you just don't say that. So I'm not going to ask you guys how many guitars you have, because your wife might happen to listen to this later. But how many guitars do you have that are kind of in a regular rotation for you? Bryson, how many do you see yourself using, either performing or recording, just kind of on the regular basis?
Probably 3, maybe 4. There's 2 that I take with me everywhere I go, and then that second spot's generally rotated out with the other 2 guitars.
Blue, how about you?
Constantly in rotation with them. I usually bring, depending on the show and what I'm feeling, 5 to 6 guitars, and then even with them, I'm rotating them with another 3 to 4.
Yeah.
So a little more than what my wife thinks I have. I'll just say that.
All right. Well, I'll edit that out later. Don't worry about it. Chris, how about you? How many do you keep in rotation? I know that you kind of burn through them when you're writing a new album, but how many you kind of keep around?
Man, I'm kind of like everybody else live, especially when we're overseas or stuff. I'm not able to take as many as I'd like to with me. So it's usually one electric and the mule resonator that I play live. So usually 2 guitars would get me by. I love them. I can't get enough of them. Can't have too many of them. But for touring and live, it becomes more of a tool than an asset. And
Yeah.
a couple of them will get me by. I
Yeah.
always love guys like Jeff Beck and some of these other guys. You'd see them play the same guitar all night long. I thought that was cool. But I also love Joe and some of these other guys that play 15, just because you get to see all the different guitars.
Yeah. Boone, how many do you go through?
Man, I got 4 or 5 guitars that I lean on pretty heavy. I got 3 that stay out on the road with me. My metal front Midas, which usually stays in open D, and then my custom shop non-reverse Firebird stays out there, as well as my I got a Gretsch Players Jet that I bought from Greg from the Headhunters, and it's a silver sparkle, and I just kind of keep it out there because I can play it in either open D or standard. It works for both. And then I get kind of guitars I only play at home or only play in the studio. I got a Jimmy Vaughn Strat that I play a lot here at the house, but a Strat really doesn't work for me live. But for whatever reason, on the couch I can play the fire out of one. But on live, it's a horse of a different color. Man, they all have a different voice and a different story to tell. You'll never have enough.
Yeah. Does anybody name their guitars?
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the names of yours, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. They come in and out. I got the Meteora that I play the most, the white one, custom shop one, the first one I call the Chief. I had a buddy of mine from Australia that helps with the fan club down there. He had a bunch of old stickers that was Native American Indian stuff, and I stuck them all over the guitar. I dropped the guitar one night and scratched it up pretty good, and I thought, well, here we go. So I stuck stickers all over it. Call it the Chief.
Yeah.
Got one named Bo. It doesn't have any finish on it at all. It's just natural beauty. So it got stuck with Bo. But yeah, it's easier for me to remember them, and sometimes it feels a little bit more sentimental if you put a name on one.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else naming guitars?
Yeah, not really. I mean, number 1, number 2, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of get into our countdown of guitarists here, and you can have them 1 to 5. 5. We'll start at 5. If you don't have them ranked like that, that doesn't matter. The point is to be able to get them out and be able to talk. So Bryson, who do you have at number 5?
I have Dave Matthews at number 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Why Dave Matthews?
Well, I was thinking about my top 100 favorite guitar players, and then realized that I had to nail this down to 5 people.
Yep.
So basically what I did was pick someone from each major phase that would do it. Yeah. So I remember Dave Matthews was kind of the beginning of me really thinking about chords and structure and just all the different voicings and the entry into, I don't know, the jazz world, or Jeff Buckley, even some of the stuff Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead plays. So yeah, he was just sort of the first non-solo guitar player that I ever listened to.
Yeah.
And I thought it was awesome that he was able to get so much mileage out of that without being your traditional guitar hero.
Yeah. No, I like that. Anybody else thoughts on Dave Matthews?
Oh, I mean, killer guitarist and great chord structures. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rhythm too.
Yeah.
All right, let's Blue, let's go to you. Who's your 5?
We'll go with, I don't really have these in order, but I guess we'll
fine.
go with the guy that started it all for me, and that's Mr. Cool, Joe Perry. He was my idol growing up, and definitely wanted to be just like him and get a lead singer that could be just as cool as Steven Tyler, and could never find one, so I guess I just kind of inherited both. I can't sing anything like him, but Joe Perry, he started it all for me. He took me down many rabbit holes, and
Yeah.
he was my guy. So I have to at least mention him.
Yeah. There are some guitar solos that he's got that they're just iconic to me. They just really stand out. Is there a particular song, particular solo of his that you're drawn to or that stands out?
I guess not really solo, but I would say more of his, his writing and his just. I mean, he was the riff meister, so it's mainly the riffs and the. He's got a very bluesy style,
Mm-hmm.
and some of his favorite guitarists led me down, the road that eventually turned to some of my favorite guitarists. So,
Yeah.
like I said, he was kind of the guy that started it all, started the reason why I play guitar. So
Yeah.
I have to have him on the list.
No, it's good. I like it. Chris, Boone, any thoughts on Joe Perry?
A great choice, man. I can't think of a better guitar duo than Joe and Brad Whitford. They're kind of been the Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood of the next generation for sure, man. Some of that stuff they played, especially live, they play off of each other really well. Especially especially in the early days before all the other technology started coming in. It's just you just had the band up there doing what they do. Really cool stuff. Aerosmith always be one of my favorite bands.
Yeah. Chris, any thoughts on Joe Perry or Aerosmith?
Yeah, I love early Aerosmith and love Joe Perry as well. I think, when you look at Aerosmith's career, Joe Perry, really played that kind of hard edge blues rock early on and then ended up playing a lot of the more poppy stuff later and
Yeah.
kind of covered all that ground. There's not that many guys that can pivot and play that much different stuff, but he was always cool when he did it, man. That's a tough thing to do. It's all right to be cool for 1 year. It's tough to be cool for about 5 decades. So I give him props for that. A lot of those dudes from the 80s definitely not so cool now, that I thought were cool in the 80s. So
yeah,
love Joe.
Yeah, shame that they had to quit touring. I don't know if that means the end of recording in the studio for them or not. Hopefully not, but that definitely a great band, great guitarist. And Boone, you brought up a point, and as far as having the two guitarists that can kind of play off of each other, and Otis, you and Alex, is that right? Alex,
yeah, correct. Alex Wells, yeah.
Yeah, you guys kind of play off each other, and Bryson, you and Sean kind of play off each other in MojoThunder. But Chris, you guys are the guitarists in your band. You're both three pieces. Talk a little bit about the difference between having that second guitar to play off of and being in that trio mode where it's just you on it. Boone, you brought it up. Talk about playing off of somebody for a second.
Man, it really, for me, it opens up a whole different world, a different avenue, especially as influenced as we are by things like the Allman Brothers, Dwayne and Dickie, and then you got all that history to study, the brothers throughout the years with Jack Pearson in there, and, Warren and Dickie, and Derek and Warren, and all this stuff to study. But it's nice having that other sonic voice to play off of. And in my case, Alex is really good at doing all the things that I'm not so good at. So he kind of allows me to be me, and then he takes care of the rest of it. So it's a nice working situation, and it's good for the rhythm section too, because you got the other guitar player can kind of play off what John and Dale are doing, and it's a cool thing. But I obviously really admire a real deal power trio that can go in there and handle it with three guys is really, really incredible and powerful. We all love, Mountain and Cream and Robin Trower and ZZ, all that stuff.
Yeah. Bryson, how about you guys? You guys are seem to structure your songs a little different, or the way you perform is a little different than what Otis does, but you still have Sean there kind of as your wingman, I guess.
Yeah, well, me and John play a tremendous amount of dual leads, so which is I think like sort of inspiration between like the Allman Brothers and like Thin Lizzy. Like that's kind of the where we come from on that. But yeah, I've always like we did the 3-piece thing for a bit, but I've always enjoyed like I just love harmony guitar so much. Like that's kind of I would rather have harmony guitars than like a guitar solo any day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that stands out, especially in the when you perform songs off the new album. It really stands out, I think. Chris, what about have you played in a 4-piece before, or Chris Tapp? You guys were a 2-piece, and then you brought in a bass guitarist that kind of, as Boone was talking about, freed you up to do a lot more. Talk a little bit about that, and then how that would compare to being in a 4-piece or a larger band.
Guys that are in 2-piece and 3-piece bands just can't get along with anybody else. Is the problem, I guess. I'd love to be. I watch Marcus King and some of these guys that get these 5, 6, 7-piece bands. Joe, and I'd love to do something like that. It's just a different, just a different flavor of tea, as a 3-piece. I did a 2-piece so long that 3-piece feels very stretched out to me. I enjoy it. When we were a 2-piece, I'd have to play anything I played lead wise in the holes and, trying to find spots. But the thing it did was make me create more melodic or more riff based stuff than lead stuff. So it was good in that point. But I love being in 3-piece. Bryce also plays organ, and so we kind of cover, and get enough covered between the 3 of us. But I love sitting in with other people. I sit in with Jesse when we were in Europe, and I love being the 4th guy and sitting back there by the drum set and let everybody just do their thing and hold it down for everybody. I love laying that foundation for somebody else to shine. It feels great sitting up there doing that.
Yeah. Blue, how about you? You've got a powerful 3-piece there, a great melodic bass player and a drummer that knows what he's doing. How does that compare to playing with when you've had a chance to play with a bigger band?
Well, first off, nothing can beat guitar harmonies, and especially Thin Lizzy style guitar harmonies. So those are some of my favorite style of solos, and it's unfortunate that I'm pigeonholed to only being able to strum one guitar at one time for some of those. But I've played in bands with 2 guitars, and you really have to kind of see eye to eye with one another, even if you're, the second guitarist is bringing a new style. I kind of wanted to go in a new direction with the last band that had 2 guitarists, and I wanted to do my style of music, and no one was really open to. So, I set out on my own, and I just kind of stuck with having 3 because it's easier to deal with 3 people than it is with 4 or 5 or 6. It less egos, I would say. But having a 3-piece, I feel like I can do whatever I want to do without having to wait, or I can play whatever I want to play without stepping on toes as far as sound and different tones. I'm a big fan of bands that have 2 guitarists, that one plays a Fender-esque style guitar, the other one plays a Gibson style guitar, so you kind of get 2 different tones rather than just the straight 2 Les Pauls going at it. But I don't know, I just feel like being in a 3-piece, I'm able to explore more ground, I guess. And while the creativity takes a little bit of toll because you're the one having to pump it out and you're the one constantly having to come up with it. And you don't have that other person to help. But I do feel like you're able to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it. I guess I'm the one with the ego is kind of what it sounds like. Kind of just realized that. Maybe I was the problem, but all right.
I couldn't get anybody else in the band with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think at the end of the
go ahead.
But at the end of the day, too, I think like whatever flavor you decide, it's like we all like cream and we all like Derek and the Dominoes, so it's just kind of like where you individually fit in.
Yeah.
If I could play like Clapton, I would probably be in a 3-piece.
Oh, wow. Boone, you got a number 5 for us.
I do, and these 5 I got are my 5 this week. So before the guitar community comes and throws rocks at me next week after they hear this, this is my 5 this week. I'm going to start out with a name that's probably unknown to a lot of people, but probably everybody on here knows, and that's Teeny Hodges. He played for the High label in Memphis, and he co-wrote a lot of songs with Al Green, like Love and Happiness and Full of Fire. He also played on Ann Peebles records and O.V. Wright's records. And what I love about him is his functionality as a guitar player, which is something I think that gets lost in this day and age, because unfortunately you get on social media and there's guys playing all this amazing stuff, but it's like, all right, man, what do you do with it? And that's where people like Teeny Hodges come in for me. I've had to really study a lot to figure out why he's actually playing, because he makes all these complex chords, but he may not play but 2 or 3 notes out of them. But if you don't make the chord right, then the whole thing is kind of lost. And I really respect that in a guitar player. The chords are so important, and having your own voice and being a writer and being a player. So I'm a big soul junkie. So Teeny Hodges made the list.
Teeny Hodges, love it. Chris Tapp, who you got at 5?
I'm coming in like Boone. I don't want to get thrown underneath the bus. These are my favorite for today. I won't even say for the week. I'll just say for today, because I love so many. It's hard to pick, and I wouldn't put these in any order. I would change that up every 5 minutes as well. But I was just thinking earlier, probably Rye Cooder's got to be in my 5. I've always loved his stuff and loved that the restraint that he has on stuff and the ability to make the solo sound like the song. And I think as somebody that considers themselves a songwriter first, I always feel like the solo better not detract from the song. And if the solo is better than the song, then get rid of the guitar player and get you a songwriter. So I always feel the song always should be stronger than the solo. And I always feel like that Rye Cooder's focus was making the song better with the guitar. So
yeah, and I think you do that, and because I hear you play live, and I know that what I see that you do live a lot of times is you're kind of holding back on the studio version of the songs, it seems, and trying to really take that philosophy of making the song the come first, and the guitar solo, the guitar work fit in with whatever you're trying to do with the song. So I think you're kind of capturing that spirit. I like that.
Try. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else got a thought on Teeny Hodges or Rye Cooder?
Man, I love Rye Cooder's playing. I'll always have. And I love how he approaches slide guitar is almost a separate instrument. He doesn't really approach it like guitar. And I've always admired when he plays slide. He has such a slow vibrato, which is really hard to accomplish. And I was just listening to Rye play on some records with Mavis Staples this week. So I appreciate Rye Cooder being thrown in there.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Chris, let's go back around the horn here and get your number 4, Chris Tapp.
Oh, you put me on the spot here. Man, I'll step out of my normal zone. I'll take Vince Gill at 4.
Nice. Interesting.
I've gotten there's not a whole lot of country guys from the 90s forward that I'm into, but I always love Vince Gill stuff. I always love solos. I always love to hear him play stuff when he's playing with other people and not his own stuff. And the Crossroads stuff that he did with Clapton is just mind blowing, and a gentleman to boot. So
yeah, it's easy to get lost in that incredible high tenor voice and miss out on the fact that he's a fantastic guitar player too.
Yeah. I've seen him at 2 or 3 guitar shows and spoken to him, and he's always been absolutely a sweetheart. But he's got enough money to buy a yacht full of guitars, and I see him at guitar shows. He looks like he's in a hot sweat to get something. He's still in love with, he's like the rest of us. He's still in love with finding just the right guitar.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on Vince Gill?
One thing I got to comment on Vince Gill is he's so particular about his tone far as pickup selection. I don't know if he's in between pickups or if he's got it, maybe his Strat's wired a certain way, but I can always pick him out of a lineup when he plays a Stratocaster because it just has a voice that's so unique to him. It's kind of if Claptonish, if Clapton played country honky tonk music, which we know that ain't the case, but he's got his own thing down to that point where you can pick him out of a lineup, and I love playing like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, he's kind of he seems like the guy that's always locked in. He's locked in, and it's a perfect marriage and between singing and playing, and it's almost like they're just all in tune with it. He's in tune with himself, I would say. It's revelating.
Yeah. Boone, who do you have it for?
Number 4. We all played slide guitar here, so I want to talk about somebody that I think should receive more recognition when we talk about slide guitar, and that's Rob Price of the original Foghat lineup. Man, I listen to that Foghat live record, and it still blows me away. I never get tired of listening to it, and I think he was playing at the same level as Dwayne Allman or pick X brand slide player here. He was just as good as anybody, and I think he broke a lot of boundaries. He used open A tuning a lot, which I thought was cool, and the songs that they chose to cover as a band, have been educational to me. Coming up listening to them, you got Honey Hush by Big Joe Williams, and man, there's just so many old blues and R&B songs that they covered and gave new life to, and he had a very unique sound live too. I don't know what all he was running in that era, but it's very, very interesting to listen to them play live, and always been a big fan of Foghat, and I'd like to see him get some more recognition.
Yeah. Anybody else on Rob Price and Foghat?
I love the Foghat live record.
What's that, Bryson?
That's a great record, the Foghat live one.
Yeah.
The cool insert. Yeah.
It's a solid choice. It's an album that I've kind of halfway forgot about that I'm going to put on Spotify as soon as we're out here.
Yeah, I've got it written in here. I know what I'm listening to tomorrow. So Chris, you were going to say something on Foghat, Rob Price?
Oh, I love it too. Yeah. How can you beat that?
Yep. Blue, who you got in your number 4 spot?
I got the guy that was recently in the news for selling a guitar. Mr. Rory Gallagher as my
Yeah.
number 4 spot.
And what? So talk about why Rory's in your number 4.
Oh man, he makes you want to go buy a Dallas Rangemaster and a Vox and plug a Strat and go to town. I mean, it's insane. You know, the live, was it the Irish Tour 74? I mean, that's something constantly I'm listening to, and him and his I forget what style of playing it is, where it's kind of more the ragtime almost when he gets to his acoustic songs. But yeah, Rory is feel like he doesn't get a lot of recognition that he definitely should, and I know that Brian May, Queen, throws his name out every show, telling him, you know, this is who I got my sound from. He's straight up tells him that that's where his tone came from, and Rory found it first in taste and carried it on. And I love Rory's playing. You know, his take of the blues and expanding it out. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Rory?
Man, I just got the taste reissued on vinyl. I've been digging on that, and those of us here that's done international touring, we know when we get to the UK that Roy Gallagher is still the gold standard for a blues guitar player over there. So we got our work cut out for us when we go to the UK.
Okay, Bryson, who you got at 4?
Well, I cheated a little bit on the rules, and
That's
so
all right.
Malcolm and Angus Young.
Yeah,
they're in a little band called AC/DC. You may or may not have heard of them.
Yeah. I think I've heard of 1 or 2 of their songs through the years.
Yeah, they're underground. You know. No,
So
I do love them together though. That's kind of so one time I was listening to AC/DC and a speaker had went out, so I lost Malcolm, and it was kind of like a defining moment when you realize just like how much of that band is like being driven by his rhythm playing. I love Angus. Like there's, I mean, you talk about him for days, but it was just kind of like it was insane. That just like that, like just how powerful those two were together. I think they're like, I think they get called heavy a lot more than they should, because like when I listen to them, I hear Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Freddie King, like those dudes are pulling from that catalog. They just happen to put the gain up a little more.
Yeah. Those guys, they really. I mean, there's a real groove there. It's not just smack you in the face. Yeah. And I think that you can, listening to Hymns from the Electric Church, your first studio album, you can certainly hear some Malcolm and Angus influence there.
Yeah, well, just rip off, not even.
Any other thoughts on Malcolm and Angus?
Man, tonally, what they achieved on record is almost unobtainable for anybody else, and that's what's always blown my mind about AC/DC is when you hear people play that try to mimic what they're doing, it's always too much preamp. It's all about loudness with what they're doing, because the tones are so wide, but at the same time, there's not a lot of breakup with either one of them. And Angus has got that just $1 million vibrato, man. He's another one that you could pick out of a lineup. So admire that choice. Really cool, man.
Yeah. Chris, thoughts on Malcolm and Angus?
Total heroes on my end, you know, from the start. Another couple fellas that the song means more than anything. There's not ever a solo that's better than the song. It's always adding to the song, and just a fantastic. I live with the story of getting thrown out of a restaurant for playing Ride On too many times on the jukebox. So I'm a total fanboy.
Yeah. Blue, any thoughts on it?
Yeah. I mean, they're fantastic. They changed rock and roll. They're the royalty almost for rock. just a freight train, really.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I admire that early on they were told to play on record like they play live. And I think that was kind of, that kind of started them out in a good way. Because not a lot of people brought such intense energy on their albums. They were just trying to get sounds. With AC/DC. It was about energy, and it's great.
Yeah. All right. I want to throw out a question to you guys. And the question is going to be the best guitar solo you've ever heard. And I'll give you a minute to think about it. So it can be on studio recording. It could be live performance. Your choice. You can kind of take it however you want. But Boone, I'll let you be the first to go. Best solo you've ever heard.
Dwayne Allman playing on Wilson Pickett's "Hey Jude." I mean, that's like sticking your finger in a light socket, man. It's amazing. It's amazing. I never get tired of listening to it. I keep scanning YouTube, waiting for somebody to isolate that solo. It's a beautiful one.
Okay, cool. Chris Tapp, you got one?
I'll take "Comfortably Numb." I'm a big Gilmore guy. It's one of the few solos that can bring me to tears without any music going on or any vocals going on. That one just does it for me, especially the live stuff.
Yeah. Blue Williams, you got an answer?
It's so tough to choose one. I don't know.
It is, isn't it?
I mean, there's so many. I would go with who I've been kind of listening to lately, and that's kind of more of, I guess, like some Joe Bonamassa stuff. But he's got a plethora of great solos. But yeah, I can't pigeonhole one that just moves me. Just off the top of my head, I have to really think about it. Maybe I'll answer at the very end.
All right, we'll give you a pass for now. Bryson, how about you?
I'm gonna go with Warren Haynes' solo on "Jimmy Thing" with Dave Matthews Band live in Central Park.
Okay, that's very cool. I like I've not heard that. I'm writing that down so I can. That's what I'm going to listen to right after listening to Foghat Live.
It's pretty cool. Warren came out for 2 songs, and that's the Neil Young song and that one. But it's it's awesome.
Very cool.
It's Uncle Warren, so you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think that was my intro.
Yeah,
that was my intro to Warren too. So I feel like it's clearly all worthy.
Yeah. So let's get. Well, first, before we move on to,
hold on, I just thought of one.
Okay, here we go.
Roy Buchanan, "The Messiah Will Come Again." I think that's probably my favorite.
Very cool. Anybody got any thoughts? Oh, first, why is that your favorite? What strikes you about that?
Well, Roy Buchanan is number one, insanely talented with a single Telecaster, and can do many tricks that people do with their feet on the guitar. But yeah, I don't know. It's moody. It has everything. It's fast. It's slow. It's high. It's low. It hits everything. And I'm sorry it took me so long to figure it out.
No, that's good.
Sorry, Rory.
Like it. Anybody have thoughts on anybody else's choice for best guitar solo? I mean, these are some great songs that you've mentioned, great solos that you've mentioned, and it wasn't just, well, let's pluck something that's very common out here. So I like that. I like that. All right, Bryson, let's go to you. What do you have in number 3?
Yeah, so another lesser known group, Dickie Betts and Dwayne Allman.
Yeah, I've heard of those guys. I think.
Yeah, they're okay. They're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could not like. I mean, I don't know. They're just incredibly influential, and yeah, I mean, they're all the dual harmony stuff, and I feel like Dickie started getting a little more credit for unfortunate reasons here recently, but I always felt like he didn't get as much credit as he deserved for just his amazing work.
Yeah. I think he carried a lot more of the weight in the Allman Brothers than what people thought. And I heard somebody say, Dickie Betts was a great guitarist because he always played after Dwayne. So he had to follow Dwayne. So Chris Tapp, thoughts on Dwayne Allman and Dickie Betts?
Hard to beat, man. I mean, you're talking about Mount Rushmore guys. These are these are not. If we're debating this, then I'm jumping off, or we're throwing somebody off. These are all. This is Old Testament stuff here. These guys are. I just adore all the Allman Brothers stuff and adore both those guys. And when you think about guitar players, sometimes you find somebody that you really like one thing that they did, and then you've got guys like those guys that you just love everything that they ever did. So
yeah. Blue.
I mean, you Live at Fillmore is hands down one of the best live albums. I've been probably getting into more Allman Brothers than I ever have. I just got a 50-watt Marshall bass head, so I've been really digging a couple of Dwayne's slide tones, and of course with Dickie, I feel like he's one of the more melodic players and plays a great melody at all times.
Yeah. All right, Boone, I saved you for last on this because I know you got an opinion.
Yeah, I'm a prime suspect for this one. I mean, if you've ever heard Otis, we love the Allman Brothers band, and we've been fortunate enough to get to play with a lot of associated projects. We got to do shows with J-Mo and Butch before he passed, and of course Jack Pearson, a lot of those guys. So man, that band has changed my life many times over, and it's the interplay between those two guitars are amazing. But what's interesting to me is the the original lineup of the Allman Brothers band before Dwayne passed. That was Dwayne's band, and there was no mistake about who was leading that band. But after that, Dickie's carrying more of the weight because Greg was just never able to. That wasn't his personality type. He was glad to be there, glad to carry it on, but he didn't have the vision that Dickie had. And with Dickie, he was able to kind of get him some more commercial recognition. He was kind of instrumental in getting them into that getting them in front of the Grateful Dead more, which got them so many more people to follow them, because the first couple records didn't sell all that well until they did Fillmore East, and then that's when everybody got turned on to them. And then Eat a Peach was after that, and that was Dwayne's last record. So it was kind of Dickie's baby there for a long time after that. And I have so much respect for both of those players. And the Allman Brothers was kind of my gateway to jazz. I probably never really got into jazz if it wasn't for J-Mo and Dickie's influence on Southern rock music.
Yeah. I don't think you can really say that Allman Brothers are Southern rock. They're the Allman Brothers. Okay.
No, man, they don't.
It doesn't fit anything else. It could be anything. It's just so incredibly good.
They don't like that Southern rock pigeonhole name tag, man. They said all rock comes from the South, and I can't argue that.
Oh man, Blue, who you got at 3?
3. We'll go with the reason why we did the Trace Hombres tour. Billy Gibbons. I'll throw in there in 3. I feel like ZZ Top is one that you can throw on their first 6 records, and there's not really a single throwaway song. And everything is meticulously placed by Billy himself in every single, note. But definitely the first 3 albums. I mean, it's so good. And then like I've been really listening to Tejas more, or Texas, however you pronounce it. But I've been listening to that a lot more with his clean Strat playing, kind of, especially the first song's kind of more like Rolling Stones ish. But yeah, Billy's up there for me, and I really love ZZ Top.
Yeah. I thought that. I knew Billy Gibbons' name would come up somewhere. Okay, and I think that there is a appreciation and respect from each of you guys. You can point to it in your music and what you do. I mean, Boone, I know there's a close association that you have with Billy, and I'll let you tell that story in just a second. And Bryson on getting on a binge on the Infinite Hope album. I feel like the guitar solo on that song's kind of a nod towards Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then Chris on Automobile, song that you guys, the Cold Stairs have, that seems to have a Billy Gibbons feel to it as well. Is that fair?
I would say that's more than fair. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think anybody that's playing blues rock owes a debt of gratitude to ZZ Top, because if you think about the genre, whether we like that term or not, that I think they bridged the gap between blues and rock probably better than anybody else did.
Yeah. And Boone, I know that you and your band have a special tie to Billy, so kind of share what that is.
I mean, first and foremost, we love ZZ Top. We kind of cut our teeth listing all that stuff. And I mean, as far as guitar players go, he's probably that. Sometimes you hear a guitar player and you're just like, yeah, man, I resonate with that. That's me. That's in my soul. And I feel that a lot with Billy, just in how he approaches the guitar. And he's such a historian, archivist. He's a one of a kind. He's a one of a kind guy. There's only one Billy F. Gibbons, and there's only one ZZ Top. And fortunately, we had a chance thing happen where Billy got a hold of our first album, and Greg Martin from the Kentucky Headhunters passed it along to him. It was just like, man, listen to this. I think you'll like it. You may use it for a drink coaster, whatever. Just here it is. And then we got a call from him the next day, and he's was just raving about the album, asking how we got tones and who we recorded it with, and he's just great to be around. He's one of my favorite people to hang with, because he's in his own universe. There's nobody like Billy. We were standing. They did a show at the Biltmore with Blackberry Smoke, and we're standing backstage at midnight, and he was like, "Man, you think Radio Shack's open?" I was like, "Man, I don't think so, Billy." And he's great. He's just as interested in you as you're interested in him, and that's rare to find in somebody, because most people they like to talk about themselves, and that's fine. But it's a 50-50 thing with Billy. He's more than happy to talk amps and old records and old movies, and he's great. So to have that sort of connection with somebody that I admire that much has meant a lot to me. And I saw Billy about a year ago on the Rock Legends cruise. I saw him and his wife Gilligan. It was really cool. It was something cool that happened on that cruise. It was his solo band, so it was him and Austin Hanks and Matt Sorum, but Sammy Hagar on Circle was also out there. So Michael Anthony got up, sang "Beer Drinkers" and "Hellraisers," and it sounded like the record. It was one of the most incredible things I've seen live. I was like, man, Elwood's good, but man, if you could talk this guy into singing some dusty songs once in a while, it'd be all right.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, Bryson, I kind of walked all over your chance to say anything about Billy Gibbons. Anything you want to add?
I'm just enjoying listening. I mean, I tell you this: if I've had one word for Billy Gibbons, it'd just be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people again get distracted by the beards and sunglasses and everything, and the Eliminator videos in the '80s and stuff. But man, you get past the image or the marketing piece of it, and you just listen to what they're doing. They're just incredible stuff, and that's one of the reasons I liked what you and Sweet Lady did with it last year. That was a lot of fun just to hear somebody play that out of a true love and devotion for the album, and just play that song for song. It was terrific.
One thing I'll throw in before we leave Billy is I don't think that there's anybody in the industry that you hear more stories about them being a nicer guy than Billy Gibbons either. It's like I've got at least 5 friends that have Billy Gibbons stories, and I'm sure Boone's got some too, of him just being a class act. Chris Barris was on the Blues Cruise with us last year, and he was talking about I guess he was doing that supersonic blues band with Billy, but they were at an airport or something, and Chris said, "Oh shit, I lost my earplugs or whatever, ear pods."
Mm-hmm.
And he said before they got on the plane, Billy was standing there and went and bought him some, and just. If you go shopping and Billy sees something he likes, and the next day, a truck show up in front of your house and he bought you the same thing just because he's happy with it. He thought you should have one. So there's so many nice stories about how cool a fella he is as a human being.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Boone, who you got at number 3?
Man, I got to talk about my one of my first guitar heroes, but he's become a really close friend, and that's Greg Martin from the Kentucky Head. And that's another guitar player that's changed my life a million times over. I mean, far as blues stuff, he gave me a real blues education, because he has a show that airs from D93 Classic Rock Station in Bowling Green called the Lowdown Hoedown, and it's on every Monday night. And I remember being, maybe 11, 12 years old. I couldn't pick it up at the house, so I'd have to drive to the end of the driveway, and it was worth the drive every week, because I got to hear Little Walter, Lightning Hopkins, and John Lee Hooker, and for a kid living in a rural area, it's hard to be exposed to that kind of music. So I'm very grateful that I got to hear it as early as I did. And then as time went on, Greg produced our first record, and he's done so many amazing things for me over my career, and very fortunate when Otis isn't touring, I go out with the heads and do social media, and he's just such a selfless person, just like handing our CD to Gibbons. I mean, that was life changing for us, and any time I need to borrow our amp and guitar or whatever, there he is, and I've got to repay the favor and fill in for him in the Headhunters a couple different times, and step into his world, which is kind of crazy. But I love Greg and love all the Headhunters for turning me on to so many cool things, and kind of helping me shape Otis over the years. So Greg deserves a place in the top 5, and it's an honor to hear him. To be able to hear him play as many shows as I get to hear him play a year, because there's nobody that loves guitar more than Greg Martin.
Yeah. We were talking a little Headhunters right before we started recording, and everybody's kind of echoing some of those thoughts. But anything anybody want to add on Greg Martin or the Kentucky Headhunters?
What's the story of his 58? Who gave him his 58? What's the story?
It was originally owned by Ed King, and then Ed King sold it to Gruens, and then Hank Jr. was doing a blues album, and bought it from Gruen's, and this was around the same time as the Headhunters were really taking off, so they were getting ready to do a video. And Greg had asked Hank, like, hey, can I borrow this guitar? I really love this guitar. And he said, yeah, take it with you. So he did filmed the video with it, and at the end of that tour, Greg went to give him the guitar back. He said, no. He said, you play it, you take care of it. It's yours. And that was kind of the end of the story. But the cool thing about that is Greg saw that guitar maybe 5 or 6 years earlier, because he was playing guitar for a guy named Ronnie McDowell, and they invited Ronnie and his band to come to the Hank Jr. show, which was across the street, and he was mesmerized by that guitar even then, before he knew anything about it. So I always thought that was a really cool story, and he's been a great guardian of the guitar. But we all those crew guys that kind of laid down the law that he needs to leave it at home most of the
time. Chris Tapp, who's your number 3?
I'll take a little bit of a left turn, and I'm gonna go with Chris Whitley at 3. I'm a huge open tunings guy, and loved the entire kind of career that Chris had, but especially just having a kind of a different voice on guitar.
Anything in particular that stands out?
He was the first dude that I saw, other than the Delta Heroes, that was playing a resonator and playing it in a way that, it's kind of like what I think everybody here on this podcast is doing their own thing with blues rock, and not just rock and roll in general, and just doing something a little bit different than everybody else is. Thank God. And I always thought that was cool that Chris was playing something that looked like something Son House would play, but playing it in a completely new and different way.
Yeah.
So that was hugely influential on me. I'm a fanatic over finding old set lists and tunings that he was using.
Yeah.
Just a big fan.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on Chris Whitley?
Chris gave me my homework for the week. I gotta dig more into that.
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with Whitley either. I mean, I know who he is, but don't know that much about his music. So I've got another item on my list of what to listen to this week. I like it.
Put y'all to work.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. All right, we'll keep making us work and give us your number 2.
Oh, we're going to go my number 2. Let's see.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go with Otis Rush, man.
Nice.
For the classic guys and the older guys. I think, I don't know about you guys, but I got to a point where I had been listening to a lot of people that referenced older people, and I thought, well, I need to go back further than Jimmy and Stevie and the guys that I idolized as a kid, and saw where they were getting their stuff from. And Otis was the first guy that I really thought, man, he just guitar tone and songs and vocals all just kind of lined up and was just kind of all stellar and electric. He was talking about Rory Gallagher earlier. One thing about Rory was he was always electric. He looked like he was on fire on stage. I always thought Otis Rush felt like that. When you hear one of those songs, it sounds like he's either had a really rough night or really rough year, or
Yeah.
he's working every bit of that off with the guitar and the vocals. I'm a sucker for it. I can tell it with first 3 seconds of the guitar or the vocal, either one.
Yeah. Very cool. Anybody else on Otis Rush?
Man, there's another $1 million vibrato, man, and it's one of my favorite Otis Rush records is "Morning in the Morning," and it was recorded at Fame Studios, and it's really cool to hear him play with that with the band that they had at Fame, man. So soulful, and it was slightly out of the box for him, and definitely out of the box for Fame gang. But man, you put the two sides together, and it was a great album, and obviously one of the blues greats. And there's really great stuff that he recorded for the Cobra label in the early '50s that doesn't get a lot of love, and it's fun to go listen back to that stuff.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Otis Rush? Like, good choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Boone, who do you have it to?
The great Ronnie Montrose. I think more rock and rollers need to be listening to Montrose. And you listen to those first couple of albums, and you're thinking this has to be a Marshall amp. But Greg, he always said, not only that's actually a 410 bandmaster. And Sammy Hagar told me the same thing when I was out on the Rock Legends cruise. So it's really amazing he was able to get that sound through a 410 bandmaster. And he opened a lot of doors in rock and roll. I don't think Montrose gets nearly enough love. I mean, he was just good as Page or Frampton or any of those guys. A great band, really great band.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Ronnie Montrose?
I'm certainly glad his name got thrown out there.
Yeah. Definitely kind of a harder edge, I guess, to blues rock.
Oh yeah,
my take on it. Yeah. Blue, who you got it to?
I would have to go with a guy I listened to for years. That'd be Peter Green. I know Tapp has he bought one of Green's guitars. I thoroughly studied that auction and was just dreaming that I could also pick up something, but I think they were going a little bit over my price range. But yeah, Peter Green with Fleetwood Mac and the Blues Breakers. Or start with John Mayall and Blues Breakers. That second album, Hard Road, is I eat it up. I think it's just great. I think his reverb and that orange Mata amp is it's undeniable. He's somebody that it's an instant tone that you can hear, and I feel like I'm always thinking somewhat of what would Peter do this particular song, and just kind of the way he freestyled, especially with his later Fleetwood Mac era. It was kind of a lot of improv, and just goes to show what great guitarist he was with improving almost an entire album.
And I think that the Peter Green influence shows in what you do. You go back to the Then Play On album. I hear some of that when I hear you play with Sweet Lady. So that's I know that's a sincere thought from you. Chris Tapp, I know that you're obviously a Peter Green fan. Thoughts on Peter Green?
I could go on and for the rest of the podcast and go on about Peter Green. He's just one of my heroes. Two things I would note about Peter for somebody that's listening, it's not super familiar. First of all, I think he was as good a vocalist as he was a guitarist, and that's saying a lot. I think his vocals were so emotional and just absolutely fantastic. And then the second thing I would note is, as a guitar player, as you come along and finally get into where you're having to play some major blues stuff, and finding how to land on that third and make it sound sweet. A lot of people reference Robin Ford, for being a great guy that plays major blues, but I feel like Peter Green was the king of being able to play those sweet major notes. A lot of guys can do it in the minors, but man, he could really vocalize on a guitar and really make it sound like a voice. So
he was supernatural.
There you go.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Peter Green?
Man, I mean, if you're in the blues rock world, you need to be studying Peter Green. The cool thing about Peter Green was, there was times where he really took his time and played with the space in the song, and then there's other times he could just come in there and just rip your heart out. And it's hard to find a guitar player that's well rounded, that can do both. We all have maybe one or two things that we're good at, but he was good at the full spectrum. And it's interesting to see. You can hear the classic blues influence in his playing, but if you listen a little farther in the classic rock genre, you can hear Peter Green's influence on the genre as a whole, and it's right there. And really cool stuff. Nothing but love for Peter Green.
Yeah. Yep. Bryson, any thoughts before you give us your number 2?
Well, so first of all, I agree with what everyone else has said. And I'll just say personally, I've made a lot of bad decisions that I don't fully regret to both Montrose and that early Peter Green stuff. It'll help you go one more,
All right. So who do you have at number 2?
Another group. Caleb and Matthew Falwell, Kings of Leon's. That's like my favorite band probably of all time. And that was like another one, just sort of made me like rethink how you sort of like approach guitar. Like, and neither one of them are virtuosos by any means, but like they just play really, really, really cool parts. And I think everybody like starts to like, everyone critically likes the like first 3 records, and then they say the last one's too commercial or whatever. But I think they're great throughout. I really think whether it's more poppy or the garage rock stuff, I think those two just, I don't know, they're family and it shows, as far as the playing goes. So yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts from anybody else?
I love them as well. I think it was the first band that I figured out was a Southern band that didn't sound Southern.
Yeah.
I watched one of those documentaries at one time early on. I was like, oh, these guys are like me and my brothers, or, people that I grew up with, but they had their own sound. I think it's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of fall in the category for me. They were around and coming out whenever I was heavily listening to music, and it was just, I never really gave them a chance while they were, first coming out, and, the Sex on Fire and all that stuff that was blowing up, and I was just ignoring because it was popular. It was not cool to be listening to popular music, and, in my head at the time, and going back and listening to them, it's, I just, what an ignorant fool I was. And, I could have really enjoyed them at the time being while they were, coming out with such great material.
Yeah. All right. So let's break open our next whiskey. And this is from Still Austin, out of Austin, Texas. This is a Bottle and Bond red corn bourbon. So let's get that one out. I think this will be very different than the rye. The rye is more sweet. We've got some vanilla notes and brown sugar and kind of buttery. This is going to, I think, be a little different for you. So cheers again.
Cheers.
That's got a little sting on that one.
Yep. Well, if you look, I don't know if you can see it or not. The label has a red snake wrapped around a cactus. So yeah, it's not high proof. It's just 100 proof.
Really?
But the the way it all came together, it's got some cinnamon and some pepper and a little nuttiness to it. But that pepper really hits.
Nice.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So between thoughts on either, preference of one or the other?
Let me try it again real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I like them both.
Maybe send me a bottle of both, and I'll tell you. I think the last one actually. I think I dig a little bit more. I don't know. That could have been because I had the first one though.
Yeah. I really like rye whiskeys sometimes. Feel like they're really good for old fashions, and I'm more of an old fashioned guy, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do like the rye. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah. Okay. So the question that I've got for you before we get your number one is, what's the best guitar solo that you've ever played? What was a moment? Maybe it was recorded, maybe it was live, but you just felt like everything just came together, and this was your best moment to date. Because best days are still ahead, but best moment to date. Looking around to see if anybody looks like they've got an answer. And
Da, 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 da.
Chris Tapp, do you have an answer?
Man, I hate to even go there. I'm never super happy with anything I play. I'm always, I think there's been a couple times in the studio where, usually the way that I work out solos is I want to be left alone for 10 minutes. If I'm working in the studio with other guys, just let it run for a few minutes and let me take a couple stabs at it. And I start with the first couple sentences and I like this and like that. And then I build on that and I build a paragraph out of it. And there's been a couple times that I've been really frustrated and then said, just give me one more time. I'm just going to play something. And sometimes 90% of the time it's not something I love, but we did, when we did Into Black, that was one of the ones that I just kind of banged around on and got frustrated with and was finally like, all right, just give me one more pass. I'm going to scrap everything. And it just was the right moment at the right time. And that one worked out good. So, but man, I'd rather probably talk about anything other than that.
Yeah. Well,
favorite solos. I don't.
Yeah. I would say that would probably be my pick for you as well. I think that the song's incredible. Sweet Lady actually does a cover of it too. So it's a great one. That's a great one. Bryson, how about you?
I don't know. I mean, probably, maybe probably something live that I don't remember. May have probably been like just like a good feeling moment. I would say recording wise, probably what was the most fun to put together and play is a song of ours off our new album called Greetings from Western Art. It's like a sort of, there wasn't a lot of guitar solos on that album, so we kind of did like a 3.5 minute one on that song, and so it was really, really fun to put together. Me and Sean do a lot of dual stuff in that, so yeah, I think that would probably be my favorite as of now.
Yeah, I find that hard to argue with that. Although live there were some guitar solos. I mentioned the one in Caroline that you worked into songs that didn't have them on the studio version, that were just incredible work. So and
I'll tell you, I appreciate that a lot. I would say probably what I thought was my best was probably one of these nights that didn't go so well. It was like 2 minutes turned into 5, and I thought, oh man, they're really good money's worth tonight is probably an absolute no go. Yeah.
Blue, how about you?
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of very critical. I critique my playing a lot. So usually when I come off stage, I'm like, well, that was kind of crap, but whatever. It, made it through the night. But there's not one that sticks out specifically. I mean, I guess if you want to talk studio, I mean, I don't know I felt like when we did Hot Press, that was kind of a spur of the moment. It was, I didn't know what to do, and nothing was sounding right. So I grabbed this crazy fuzz and just put it on, and it made the cut.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite, but that's one that kind of stands out. But I think any good guitarist or any guitarist, sorry, is not going to say, yeah, that this 1997 at
Right.
this pub downtown. I played this 3-minute
Yeah.
thing that I laid it down.
Well, and it's probably an unfair question, so I apologize for that. But I just, is there something that kind of stood out or you felt particularly happy with or proud of? And I think Hot Press, that kind of the last half of the song is guitar solo that just kind of goes, and it's terrific. And but really, I mean, you work guitar solos into so much of what you do so well live that it'd be hard to pick one.
I guess
Boone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I guess maybe the next one is always my favorite one.
The next one.
The newest thing.
Yeah. Boone, how about you, bud?
Man, I'm like the rest of these guys, man. I hate to talk about myself. I've seen, we've played the Cold Stairs and MojoThunder, and I'd rather talk good about one of them. But man, on our current single, Last Fool in the Line, I play a slide solo, and I've had there's been 2 or 3 shows where I've heard people out in the crowd singing the solo, and for me, that's it doesn't get any better than that, because that's one thing I've always wanted, is to play a solo that's lyrical enough that you can sing every line of it. So it's not a complicated solo. I mean, about anybody could play it, but there's just something about it that's just kind of a earworm for people, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for me.
Yeah.
The better question, Kevin, would have been, do you remember your worst solo?
No,
everybody can chime in on that.
Or you tell us what you think our best solo was that you saw us play.
There you go.
Well, I've already mentioned to Chris Into Black. I think that I've seen him do that live 2 or 3 times, and that's always great. There's a song that'll be on the next album called Ransom that I heard him. I think you opened with that in St. Louis, and I remember that solo being particularly good that night. For Bryson, I've mentioned the solo in Caroline, and I agree. Greetings from Western Art is it's a great song, and the solos at the end of it kind of make it, and it is great to hear Bryson and Sean playing off each other like that. And then with Boone, I would agree. Last Fool in the Line is got that great slide solo. I think I told you it sounded like Howlin' Wolf and the Heartbreakers when I heard that song the first time. But I love the song off Eyes of the Sun album, Shake You. I think that live is just off the charts good, and the guitar work you do on that really makes it. And Blue, I think, I think your Hot Press solo, when you do it live and you kind of extend it out, I think that works really well. But you're one of these guys that you just kind of turn you loose and you go. And you'd probably be the one that'd be the most difficult for me to pick one solo out that I would say, yeah, that's the best one, because I think you just work it in so well and so seamlessly. So have I bragged on you guys enough now? Is that
your check's in the mail?
Okay, good. Well, if I didn't love you, respect you, and really think highly of what you do, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So all right, so let's get to the number one. Well, first of all, I want to say this: like the rye out of from Far North Spirits in Minnesota. This is still Austin bourbon out of Austin, Texas. So, give me some thoughts on Stevie Ray Vaughan. Bryson, any thoughts on Stevie Ray?
That?
You ever heard of him?
Yes.
Had a big hat. Had a big hat. And,
I mean, I think that was like, if everyone's honest about maybe their like first like blues intro, I think a lot of people's gateway into blues was Stevie. And I tell you, I didn't actually know Little Wing was a Hendrix song the very, very first time. Like I knew Stevie Ray's instrumental version long before I knew Jimmy's. And yeah, I mean, he's all right, I guess.
Yeah, he'll pass.
He's one of the greatest of all time. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on Stevie Ray?
I mean, man, everybody sitting on this podcast probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Stevie Ray Vaughan, because he kicked the door back down for our style of music in the late '80s, early '90s. The whole kind of blues thing was kind of dying out until Stevie Ray and the Thunderbirds and ZZ kind of kicked back the door open for us. So then you won't find a more emulated guitar player than Stevie Ray Vaughan. I don't think, man. I mean, even Hendrix. I think there's more people out there that's trying to do the Stevie Ray thing than they are Hendrix. And it's kind of like we're talking about Angus and Malcolm. It's one of those tones. It's almost impossible to achieve because it's right here. And unless you got Stevie Ray's hands, you're probably not going to get it.
Yeah, just what he did with bringing, like, playing with Albert King, early on, that little album that came out not terribly long ago, but just another fierce player. And I always tried to, you may put me on the cross for this, but I always tried to avoid listening to a lot of Stevie, because I knew if I listened to a lot of Stevie, I would sound too much like Stevie. It's one of those, I knew it was a rabbit hole that I was going to go down. So the longest time I kind of avoided it because I wanted to be my own thing. But it's amazing that when you do go down that rabbit hole, which I did, like how many influences that I hear right off the bat, like, oh, this is where, so-and-so got this from, or it's amazing. I did the same thing with Hendrix and all of them. I kind of put pause because I wanted to do my own thing, but going back and listening to them, it's amazing. Some of the stuff that you're hearing that right off the bat, you're like, man, that's where so-and-so got this from. But Stevie will always be an icon and a great tragedy that he went away so young. He had so much to give.
Yeah. Yep. Chris, any thoughts on Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Whenever I think about Stevie, I think about just guitar players in general having vocabulary, and some people can say a lot with a few words, and some people can say a lot with a lot of words, but he always seemed like the one guy that just never ran out of things to say, guitar wise. You couldn't extinguish him on a 3-hour set where you get to a point where myself or anybody else other than Stevie, I would say everything they had to say on guitar, in the first hour. But Stevie always seemed to play things kind of like Robin Ford or a lot of jazz guys that you just like, well, where did that come from? He just never ran out of ideas or ran out of things to say. And that's the thing with him that I always thought with him. He also seemed like the most natural guitar player to me.
Yes.
Like, he seemed like came out of the womb just in E minor pentatonic. He was just, he was there. So
yeah, it always looked so effortless and natural to watch him play.
Yeah.
And where did he end and the guitar begin? You really couldn't tell it just by the way that he played, and that's always fun to watch. And of course, exceptional to hear. So, all right, so let's get number ones from folks. Bryson, who you got it in the top spot for you?
Jimmy Page.
Yeah, he was in a little band, right? I think they're out of England, weren't they?
Yeah. I think so. Anyway.
Yeah. No, you guys do some Led Zeppelin in some of your shows, right?
Yeah. Every now and again we do a Zeppelin medley.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, Jimmy. I mean, obviously, everybody knows who he is, and that's for the reason of him being so great. But yeah, Jimmy's another one. It's like he's a great lead player. He's got all his chord work and stuff, and he's just so creative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't know. I feel like at one time or another, everyone's favorite band's Led Zeppelin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Any other thoughts on Jimmy Page?
Physical Graffiti.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask this question then. Favorite Led Zeppelin album, since you brought it up, Blue. So you're saying Physical Graffiti?
Oh yeah, I think side 2, In the Light, is probably the coolest song in the world.
Yeah.
And then who doesn't like Custard Pie?
Yes. Talk about your riffs. Chris Tapp, you have a favorite Led Zeppelin album?
Probably 4 for me, because that was my gateway drug into that. And I'm a total Jimmy Page lunatic. My license plate on my guitar or on my car says J Page. I'm well versed and well studied. I love reading the biographies and the autobiographies and the books and going down the deep dive in YouTube at 3:00 in the morning. I'm well versed. I was really fortunate. We were making a record in Los Angeles, and our producer Mark Needham at the time got Brian and I fifth row tickets to see Jimmy Page interviewed by Chris Cornell at the Ace Theater, and that will always go down as one of the best nights of my life.
That's very cool.
See that?
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, again, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
What can you say?
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of ability and in terms of influence. Yeah. Boone, favorite Led Zeppelin record?
I'll have to go with the debut album. You know, they just had so much energy on that record, and it's kind of like with Zeppelin, with Hendrix. It's like once they got going, man, the industry just wore them out to the point that they didn't, they just weren't as into it anymore. But on that first record, man, they had all that energy, all that creativity, and like nobody had ever heard anything like it. And that's what I love about that record.
Yeah. Yeah. Bryson, do you have a favorite?
Yeah. Now, like present time, Physical Graffiti.
Yeah.
And then early on was probably 1 or 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So Blue, who's your one?
Number 1 is going to have to be an Irishman, Northern Irishman by the name of Gary Moore.
Yeah.
I feel like when I got turned on to him, I haven't stopped, and I feel like he's made a huge impact on my playing and my playing style. I feel like I did a complete 180 listening to him, and he's just a guy that he had trouble with singers, and eventually just started singing himself as well as playing guitar, and man, he's wrote great songs, and he is the ultimate guitarist in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't be sitting on this podcast if I never listened to Still Got the Blues album.
Nice. Any other thoughts on Gary Moore?
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Boone, who you got at 1?
Man, I think almost everybody we mentioned can be traced back to B.B. King. I think all roads lead to B.B. So anytime, I know these guys know what I'm talking about. Anytime you get lost in the woods as a guitar player and get lost. Sometimes you had to kind of go back to home base, and BB is that for me. It's the human element, it's the vocal element, and guitar playing, and that's ultimately what we're all trying to do is emulate the human voice and react on people's emotions, and nobody did that better than BB, and he's the reason I picked up a guitar.
Cool. Any thoughts on BB King?
He's the Old Testament as well. I agree with everything Boone said. That's the alpha.
Yeah. All right, Chris, who you got at number 1?
I'll stretch out for number 1 today and go with Robin Trier.
Nice.
I've become more and more of a bigger fan the last couple of years, and also of the singer that was on most of those records, James DeWar. As a vocalist, it feels like home to me. And then as a guitar player, I've just gotten more and more into kind of what Robin was doing, and I think figuring out how to become a vibe, have a almost literally with him, but getting your own kind of sound. It's another guy that you can hear and instantly kind of go, oh, that's Robin Trier.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on Robin Trier?
Robin Trier was the full package, especially on the British Size album. You had James DeWar, and then Bill Lorden, I believe, that came from Sly and the Family Stone. It's just it's an incredible record, and he was great at writing the song. There's so many interesting things in his music that you don't really hear anywhere else. There's a lot of funky stuff going on. I love Robin Trier.
Yeah, kind of almost the continuation of Hendrix, in my opinion. He kind of picked up where he left off, and kind of took it in his own direction. But I definitely can dig some Robin Trier and some Univibe for sure. That's super nasty.
Very cool. All right, so we've gone through your top 5, and we've talked about a couple others. I want to throw out just a couple more names to you and get your thoughts. Eddie Van Halen. Bryson, any thoughts on Eddie Van Halen?
I love Eddie Van Halen. Now as far as like terms of like play style, I for me, tapping's not a thing that I do or anything like that, but like just I mean, in a world of uncommon people, he was uncommon amongst them, if that makes any sense. Like, and I mean, he was able to do it with two different like really, really well-known front guys as well. Like I love the Sammy Hagar era as much as I do the Dave era, and just such a unique voice. I'll never be able to play any of it, but I love listening to it.
I was trying to go with something that's a little bit different stylistically from what you guys play. So anybody else thoughts on Eddie Van Halen?
He totally revolutionized guitar after he come to town. It was a different ball game, and that's something I've heard the Headhunters say a lot, because when that album came out, they were kind of between Itchy Brother and the Headhunters, and they all listened to that record and was like, boys, we're in trouble. So I think more or less that pushed them into saying, hey, let's try this country thing. But yeah, man, totally changed the guitar game.
I think you could take away all the things that the common person knows about Ed. You could take away the tapping and the smile and everything else, and if you just left it to the rhythm playing and the songwriting, the riff writing, he's still top 10. It's as revolutionary as Boone said.
Blue, anything to add?
No, I think these guys said it. It's he changed everything almost overnight. I think I read an article about how their first single, "You Really Got Me," they recorded, and another band also had recorded it and they were kind of just talking about, amongst each other, and Eddie played it for that other band, not thinking that, oh yeah, whoever puts this out first is going to be, the, not the copycat. So
Right.
I think the producer rushed it out before the album was completed. Something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure, but
Angel.
But yeah, it was, he changed everything, and it was overnight. I think all hair metal started with Van Halen.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question I think for everybody here: did you guys also feel like George McFly the first time you heard Eruption? Because that's exactly what I remember of like hearing it. It's like that whole Back to the Future thing.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
I remember just being in the back of my dad's Crown Victoria and it coming on the radio before You Really Got Me, and I was like, what on earth was that? That is just the most gnarly thing ever. And
yeah. That's not what they played on the radio. What? Yeah.
Yeah, they used to back in the day, apparently.
Oh, man. All right. A couple more that are, again, different stylistically. The Edge, U2. How does thoughts on that? Because that's, again, something that's very different than what you guys do.
I think he's a genius. I mean, people can say that he's a cheater. I was in Ireland one time, and I went through the Irish Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I was there with my wife, and some other Americans came in, and when they got to the U2 part, the guy just like totally trashed the Edge. He's like, okay, next I'm done. And it's like, wow, this guy has one sound in his head, and he takes 50 pedals and makes it into this orchestra, and it takes an insane amount of talent. And although I'm not a U2 fanatic, it's something that I can totally appreciate because it's just a different way of thinking. And what he did is bar none, just as revolutionary.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on the Edge?
I mean, yeah, Joshua Tree, I think, is one of the greatest, just one of the greatest albums of all time. I love his playing, and as far as like, I think people get a little too stuck on the I'm a guy that plugs it into the amp and it's just the breakup or whatever. Like, if you were gonna go paint something, I don't understand why you would limit yourself to only a few colors.
Right.
Open the whole thing up. I think he did that.
Yeah.
I think my thing with the Edge is that after Hendrix and after Ed came along, what else could be done? What else is left? I think it was very difficult to do something and somebody go, oh, well, I haven't heard that before,
right?
Where I haven't heard it taken that far before. So, who knows if the landscape was different, who knows what kind of player he would have been. But I think he was trying to set himself apart from the other guys, and he did a great job of doing that.
Yeah, definitely a distinctive sound. You hear a few notes and you know exactly who it is and what they're playing.
He got a few paychecks too, I think.
I think that he has. Yes, he's.
He still tours with his like 1960s Vox AC-15 and his old tweed Fender. I mean, how many guys are still on the road taking a Vox, a 60s Vox and a 50s Fender and playing stadiums with them?
All right, one more.
About the Edge is that I don't like it that he put that album on my iPhone. Otherwise, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Let me choose. That's my decision.
Okay. All right. One more. Again, just different stylistically, and that's Alex Lifeson of Rush. Boone, any thoughts on Alex Lifeson?
Oh man, I love those clips of him playing the 335s and 345s. Man, nobody really in rock at that time was playing those, and he made a whole iconic tone out of it. And they're for guitar nerds out there, some of those semi hollows, we call them burst killers. Lifeson was killing the burst with those, man. And I, I I'm a big fan of progressive stuff, so I love Alex Lifeson.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts on Alex?
Kind of did his own thing, like we were talking about the Edge and everybody else. He might have been a second-rate Jeff Beck, but he was number one at being Alex Lifeson. There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I've seen Rush 2 or 3 times, and I'm a big Rush guy to an extent. I don't deep dive into them, but I mean, 2112 is so good, and Moving Pictures you can't say enough of, and Fly By Night. I mean, he does so much, and like the instrumentals, I think that's probably one of the better instrumental bands of all time. Easily. You can rank however you want to rank, but I think with the three of them together, I think as far as talent, I think they're probably one of the most talented bands to ever come out. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think all three have PhDs in something, whether they were given to them or not. There's not many doctors rocking out. So.
That's funny. All right. Well, I've kept you guys for much longer than I probably should have, so we'll start bringing this into a landing. But as we're doing that, I want to give everybody a chance to talk about what you've got going on and share some social media. So, Bryson, let's start with you. Where can everybody find out about MojoThunder?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the social media is at MojoThunder Official. That's YouTube, Instagram. We don't do Twitter for obvious reasons. And then there's Instagram and Facebook, which also have MojoThunder Official. And then from there, everything's on our website, MojoThunder.com.
Yep. Anything coming up? Anything you want to tell people about?
Huge. The most exciting things you've ever known or will know. Just so follow all those things, and then you'll see those things.
Listen to The Infinite Hope. It is absolutely one of my favorite albums of this year. I've listened to it many, many times, and many more to come. So congratulations on the album. Congratulations on the Europe tour of Europe. And we'll be watching for great things to come soon.
Huge.
Chris Tapp, you've got album The Southern is out now. Came out, I believe, in September. And you've got a solo album coming out soon, correct?
Yeah, solo record will come out, I think, in May. And then the follow-up to The Southern Part 2 will come out in June.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to stay on the trajectory of 2 records a year and then 1 solo record a year. So
yeah, that's nice.
Hard at it, but we're easy to find. It's just thecoldstairs.com or anything at the Cold Stairs. You can find us.
Tour dates, any big shows coming up?
Yeah, we've got Rock Legends Cruise in February with a great lineup on that. Alice Cooper and a bunch of guys I grew up loving. We're on the Bonamassa Cruise to Alaska in September. And we're in Europe June for 5 or 6 festivals over there for the month. So kind of busy year coming up, and thankful, humbled, and blessed to be out playing music for a living. So.
Yeah. And be sure to check out The Southern. It is just a terrific record. Kind of encapsulates some of the Southern rock influences, but it stands on its own as a great album from the Cold Stairs. So be sure to check out The Southern. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed that. Blue Williams, tell us about Sweet Lady, where everybody can find stuff.
Yeah, so you can look up Instagram, Sweet Lady Band. Our website, Sweet Lady Official, has any of our dates that we add. And then we're still on Facebook. Whoever still uses that, we still use that extensively. And then, yeah. And then coming up, we got, let's see, we're going to go to the studio Saturday.
Nice.
Hopefully crank out a couple songs, and then hopefully we can get an LP out to add to your collection up there, Kevin.
Nice. I'll look forward to it. I'll be first in line. All right, Boone, what's going on with Otis?
Man, we got all kinds of stuff going on. Just go to theotisband.com. You'll find everything there. We got merch and tour dates and all kinds of stuff. We got one show list for the year. It's a show we do every year called Jambodians, and it goes to get school-age children musical instruments through like the CMA Foundation, and it's a thing that we're proud to be a part of each year. This year we'll be there. Jimmy Hall will be jamming with us, and Greg from Headhunters will also be there jamming with us. So
Fantastic.
We're really looking forward to that. Got a busy year coming up, and just keep up with us.
Yep. Try to keep up.
That's it.
For our show, again, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you prefer to just listen, we can accommodate you there too on Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows, including this one. We have a Facebook group where we can post, what are you drinking? What are you listening to while you're drinking it? And every guy here and their bands that they represent have been featured on, hey, I'm sitting on the deck and I'm listening to this and I'm drinking that more than once. So my admiration of you guys and the music that you make and what you do and who you are as people is very sincere and heartfelt. And I'm very humbled that you would give a couple hours of your evening to come on and talk. And thank you very much. So I appreciate that.
Back at you, man.
You're the best.
Thank you for having us.
Yep. All right. So on behalf of Blue and Boone and Bryson and Chris and myself, until next time, cheers, love, and Freebird. Well, wait a minute. We didn't talk about Rosington Collins. No, that'll be next time.